Hey everybody, it's Doom here from Dungeons and Doom Biscuit, and I got these Incredible Hulks at the Dollar Tree. I think they were $1.25. I'm not really sure, I didn't check, but that's probably what they were. They twist, which is, kind of pointless, I guess. But I was going to turn this into something cool. Maybe, in theory. So I guess getting it off this base is probably a priority. You know what? That was stupid. Snippers would probably be way better for this. Oh, I don't know if they're big enough. They might not be big enough. I might have to do it with a knife. Ooh. Okay. We'll snip off that little bit of excess after the fact, I think. Okay. I want to make sure we got as much of the foot as possible off of there. Then we can snip off any excess crud. Like that. Now, his pose is, I have 3 of these that I want to do something with. So the pose is going to have to be changed up some. And the easy way to do that would probably be to, well, I think he's a little bit tall. So I'd like him to be leaning forward a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut this back like that to make him kind of leaning forward a bit. And that's going to make his torso look a little bit shorter too. So I think something like that would work. His leg posture is a little generic. You could come back here and nip some of that out and kind of bend it back. And you might have to do a couple passes to get deep enough to do what you want. Okay. And you should peg these. That means drill holes in it and put a piece of metal or wood in there to hold it in place. But me, I'm not going to do that. Okay. I'm going to make him lean a little bit more forward. A little bit more forward. And I'm going to bend one of his arms back. And to do that, I'm just going to cut that. Reposition it slightly. Like that. A little bit more. And that's going to change his position up some and make him look a little unique. So that each one of these doesn't look exactly the same. Then I'm going to twist his torso just the tiniest bit. Now mind you, it's kind of got a shape you got to follow to an extent. So I'm just going to twist it a little bit just to make him look unique. And then we have to kind of clean up some of this and make it look good. So let me snip this little bit of sticky outy stuff here off that toe. Get something like that going. Okay. Something like that. He's definitely in a more usable position. That's going to be a little more interesting. Now we want that to stay permanently, so we're going to get some super glue and baking soda, and we're going to make some changes. I'm going to sacrifice a throwaway brush for this one. I'm just going to use that little plastic tray he came in to put my glue in. I'm going to paint the joints. Just like that. Okay. I'm going to paint around his feet a little bit with some of that super glue. Okay. Just because I want to sturdy this up. Get a good bond. Okay. Now, one of the problems you're going to find if you do all this at once like I just did is that when you baking soda this, it's going to be in some places you don't really particularly like or want. But you can attempt to be careful, or you can just let it dry and then come back and hit it again. So we know that getting the baking soda in these cracks is going to fill those up to an extent. We're going to clean him off with a toothbrush so we don't have a bunch of excess baking soda around. And then we're going to actually make sure his foot's bonded well. We're going to get some down there, some there. And that's going to make sure he's not moving on the base. There we go. Then we're going to clean up some of this up here, just using that brush. We're going to clean up this crevices a little bit. Okay. Then we're just going to make sure everything's, all the excess baking soda is cleaned up on him. And that super glue will clean that right up. It'll be like a sponge kind of. See, we have a gap in his knee there. We're going to leave that. We're going to cover that with a piece of armor. That's too easy to do. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of my super glue for now. And let's make some pieces of armor for him. So I'm just going to use some pieces of Honey Nut Cheerio box that I had left over that I had cut for some brick shapes. And a pair of scissors. I'm going to round these off a little bit. Just like that. Nothing perfect. Nothing spectacular. Just round off these edges. You don't have to be a master craftsman to make nice stuff or decent stuff. You just have to be interested in trying. So, this is going to be his shoulder pad. And you can really get interesting with shoulder pads and stuff. You can make straps with, actually, let me show you that. If you get a little bit of masking tape and cut like that, you can do it thinner or thicker, whatever works for you. You can make some pretty decent looking, form-fitting kind of strap stuff like that. Okay, it's going to have a little bit of texture to it, and then you can just kind of cut off what you want to not be seen pretty easily like that. Okay. And then I want to make this a belt around the front, so I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm going to cut a thin strip to be the belt that goes around the front of him, or his waist, I should say, not his front. Just gonna tear that because I'm lazy. Okay. Something like that. I'm going to get that shoulder pad on here, and to do that I'm just going to get a little bit of hot glue. In there. That was more than I wanted, but that's okay. Okay. And get that in place. Cool, cool, cool. Then we can put some studs on that to make it look a little interesting. We'll get it positioned on there just so it looks interesting. We could put a spike on that too if we wanted. I don't know if I want a spike on mine though. You can use fork tines or pieces of toothpick or whatever you want to make spikes. So now we need a weapon for him. And he's pretty solid and he's going to be easy to work with. So my guy's going to be right-handed. So I want to kind of flatten off the front of that hand so I can drill into it a little bit. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can snip it with snippers. You can file it, or you can just get a knife and cut it flat. But I want a flat surface that's going to be easy to drill into. Then I'm just going to get a pin vise, which is a tiny drill. And you don't have to use a pin vise for this. You can just, well, let's not use a pin vise because not all of you have one. Let's just add a weapon to his hand. So we need a cool weapon. What is this? We need a shin guard too, a knee pad. So for my knee pad, I'm just going to cut one of these kind of shorter, one of these little brick pieces I made. I'm just going to snip the corners off it. Just like that. Okay. And I'm just going to bend that up. Get a dab of glue in there. Like that. I'm going to put that on his knee. I'm just going to use the heat of that glue and kind of bend it around to kind of capture that. Okay. Something like that. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too fancy. Alright, now the weapon. Think with your head. Alright. If you have toy soldiers or toy pirates or anything like that, you're going to have tons of swords and crap. Toy soldiers, toy knights, whatever. Right? So I'm just going to grab something that I can steal a weapon from and see if that's going to be remotely close to size good enough for him. And it's kind of small. Kind of small. I want him to maybe have a club. Oh, a club would be way easier. A club would be way easier because I can get a stick and make a club. And it's going to be looking like it can't fit in his hand just right, so just easily enough. I'm just going to skim it down some. Just doing thin lines. Until I get it thin enough that it looks like he can hold it in his hand. Something like that. I'm just going to get the tiniest dab of glue on there to hold it while I glue it. So I'm using hot glue. Just the tiniest little bit. And I know how I want it to sit on his hand, which is kind of like that. So I'm going to get that in place. And then I want a little piece to stick out on the bottom maybe, but I'm not super worried about that because that kind of accuracy is not what people are staring at. Now, I want to get some glue there. And I want to get that all around that base. Create a good bond. A little bit more. There's a lot more. I wanted a little bit more. Okay. I want some on the stick and a little bit on the hand. I want it to be thin. I'm going to blow that off. Okay. Pretty good. Then I'm going to get some more glue. Get some glue up on my stick too. We've already sacrificed a paintbrush for this job, so we can use the paintbrush to spread that glue around and sturdy this up. I'm also going to rub some glue across my belt and stuff, and that's just going to make that better and stronger. Hit my knee pad with it. And this is going to add some texture to him and make him look a little grungy too. Hopefully. Hopefully. Depends on how long my glue sat. Maybe it sat long enough. Okay. All right, sturdy on his hand. Now we can base coat him. And I'm just going to prime him in black. Let me put some of these tools away so they're not out here while I'm trying to paint. Cool. Should have done that while he was getting painted. So now you see him, he's pretty basic and pretty easy. He's changed his posture up quite a bit. Yes, I have a new fan here waiting to build my new paint booth. I've been meaning to do it, but that's what he looks like right now. So I just painted him into a cardboard box because I don't have a paint booth set up, and I don't know how well I got him because I don't have lighting over there. So let's hope this works. We'll hot air gun him real quick. Oops. Get over here. He's pretty much dry enough for government work. So I'm going to start with a dark color and I'm going to dry brush him with a dark brown. And I know I usually use a white, but we're using a dark. When I say dry brush, that's also pretty relative because I just don't want to get in every single crack. I want to leave some of that dark there, but I want him to be interesting. So I don't want to take all the shading away, but I want to take some of it away. And this is actually the color I want the base to be. So I'm just going to paint the base pretty liberally with that. Okay, I'm going to get some of that off my brush and just go back around and make sure everything's brown. Okay, something like that. We're done with that brush for now. I'm going to hit him with the air gun. We're going to move on. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to get something to kind of do a tone for his flesh. So what I'm doing is I'm going to get this sun-kissed peach color in a color called beige. It might be too light. Let me get a medium brown in there too. We'll play games. All right. So just using a soft makeup brush, I'm going to get that medium brown. I'm going to get a lot of that off. Not quite a dry brush, but a lot of that off. And then I'm going to hit him with that. And that's going to catch a lot of texture right off the bat. You'll see. I'm going to get a little bit more of that, a little bit of that beige, and a tiny bit of that peach. It's really light. I'm going to get a little bit more of that brown. There we go. Now I'm going to get a lot of this off. A lot of it. Okay. I want to check it. Still a bit more than I want. Okay, there we go. And this is going to catch all Homeboy's muscles, hopefully. Something like that. Now we're going to get that and come back in here a little bit. Just like that. Get a lot of that off our brush. Too much. There we go. Now we're going to hit Homeboy with a nice coating of this final flesh tone kind of look. Really want to hit flesh mostly. Try not to hit other stuff. A piece of tape stuck to me. Of course I do. I'd like that to be a little more pink looking, but I feel like we're going to make a mistake going that direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit some of the really high spots. lighten up his face significantly. Focus on making his hands look decent. Okay, something like that. Now let's do, all his crap. So for the belt, I want to do like a brownish black. Like a dark brown. I'm going to get a little bit of jet black here. I'm looking for a brush that I want to use. Something cheapy and crappy. I'll get a little bit of brown, a little bit of black, a little more brown. There we go, something like that. And I'm going to do his belt with that. Get that wet. Okay. Okay, real easy. Try not to get on the flesh if you can help it. And then I'm going to take that lighter brown and mix some of that in there. Okay. Something like that, and do a shoulder pad and his knee pad with that. Something like that. I'm going to get some of that black. I'm going to get it kind of wet. I'm going to get a little bit of that brown in it. I'm going to do his hair. It's got to be wet so it kind of gets down in the cracks, okay? Okay, something like that. Last but not least, I want to do his pants and his club. So for his club, I'm going to get some wet paint. Okay, and I'm going to get it just some black to make it dingy looking, and some brown. And I'm going to paint his club. Just like this. Okay. Then for his pants, I want those to have a little bit of a red tint, so I'm just going to grab some of this chocolate bar, which has some red to it. Okay. I'm going to mix that in with this. It's pretty wet. I'm going to paint his pants with that. And it's got to be a little watered down, so any of the two-tone, any of the variation that's under there is still noticeable. Because it's about making a miniature that you can throw on your table that looks good quickly. It's not about perfection. If you're trying to make perfection, you're going to find disappointment, I promise. Now, it's not saying you can't spend a lot of time and effort and hand carve everything and remove every little seam, and you can't make this into something better than this. You could, But if you're going for this plot that I'm pushing, is that we're just trying to get this together and make a decent miniature quick. That's what I'm pushing here. Okay, something like that. And we're gonna get that black. We're gonna do the rocks in that real quick. Okay, something like that. Let's air dry this dude. As you see, when it dries, it leaves, the thin paint leaves variation. Okay, I need to hit this again real quick. In the back here, I missed a spot on his pants. That's okay. Missed a couple little spots. That's all right. Okay, let's get a metallic. Do those studs. Just like that. Then, I think it would be cool to just outline his knee pad. Just do the edging real quick with that metallic, just to make it look kind of cool. Actually, I think I'd like the whole knee pad to be metallic. I'm going to do it half-ass. I'm just going to jab it on there and stipple it on in some spots. Okay. Now, getting a slightly lighter gray. That's not the one I want. That's not the one I want. That's the one I want. Nope, that's not it. Here we go. This is called Elephant. Hold on, I got paint all over me. Good enough for government work. I'm going to get a tiny bit of this gray. I'm going to wipe a lot of that off, and then I'm just going to grab some detail on that rock, then kind of dab it off with my finger. Same thing. I'm not killing myself here trying to make a master art piece. Okay. Something like that. Do my outline around him. Paint's a little too wet, so this is not working ideally. There we go. And just catch that around the edges where there's no texture from baking soda. That's all I'm doing. You could do his eyes if you wanted. I don't think it's necessary for something like this. Unless you don't have a big miniature. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have thousands of miniatures. So, yeah, this guy will get used, but he'll just be thrown on a shelf till I need a bunch of ogres, and then I might grab him or I might not grab him. I don't want to lie and be like, this is going to be one of my flagship, miniatures that I use regularly. I don't know. I have a bunch of ogres. I just saw this and thought it would make a good ogre, so I wanted to make one. Actually, I wanted to make 3, because I have 3 different ideas for how I want to do ogres with this Hulk. So, truth be told, if this is your flagship ogre, you might want to spend a lot more time on this, You might. I don't know. But I don't think I need to do his eyes or anything. I think he looks like a good ogre. I think once he's clear-coated, he'll look good. Fuck it. You know what? We're under 40 minutes. Let's throw eyes on this guy. I'm using an off-white. With a tiny little brush. Oh, my hands are shaking. I didn't eat it today. I'm gonna fuck this all up now. Then, if you don't, like if you got a little white dot outside of that or whatever, just get a medium or a darker brown and come under and paint under it. Let's darken it back up. Then I need eyebrows for my dude. I'm going to use black. Then for his irises, a tiny bit of red. Let's hope my hands aren't shaking so bad that I screw this up. It'll work. All right. We're pretty much done here. Let's get a little bit of clear glue. You see that, Sweeney? We pushed it right through the prophylactic, dude. I'm going to get some of my clear glue. And I'm going to smear it around on here real thin. And just create some jagged spots that could be where grass is. Okay. A little bit in front and the back. Maybe a little bit over by this foot where it's a little bit lighter than I want it to be. Just like that. Something like that. Cool. And there's my ogre. So once that dries, I'm going to clear coat him and he's going to look great. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I know some of these videos get repetitive because like I just get ideas randomly. And I saw these Hulks and I thought they'd make a good ogre. And he still looks like the Hulk. Yeah, he does. We could do head swaps and stuff if you want to cut a bunch of pieces up. But the truth is, how many pieces do we want to cut up to make a miniature? That's what it really comes down to. But, you can still see a little bit of a crease there where we didn't do a great job on his arm, but otherwise you can't even tell that he's been cut apart and changed in position very much. Right there you can see a little bit, but it also looks like the bottom of his pants, so it kind of worked out. So anyways, you can do this kind of stuff too. It doesn't take an enormous amount of art or talent or anything. It's just you wanting to do it is what matters. That's the big thing. So please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell icon, leave me a comment, and I'll see you next time.